There is 10 games on the MLB slate tonight. How do we make money betting them? Well, you're going to find that out right here on First Pitch. Dan Alexander back here with my man Drew Martin and Bryan Power to hopefully deliver some winners to you on the Monday card. We're excited to be here live. You can hop below in the chat and make sure you hit that like button and throw us a subscribe. Hit that little bell as well. Drew, let's get right into it, man. And this weekend didn't go so great for the Detroit Tigers. What was it? 25 times they struck out over these last two games in that little sweep they had with the Yankees. So I am sure, Drew, they'll be glad that they get to see an AL Central team because that's like where all their successes come. Half of their wins against AL Central foes. Unfortunately, it's going to be McKenzie for the Cleveland Guardians that the Detroit Tigers will have to see. Drew, welcome on in. How do you see this one breaking down, brother?
Sure, Dan. Happy Monday morning to you as well. And yeah, yes. You bring up McKenzie. I feel like he's had one bad start this season against the New York Yankees, but he's been pretty solid otherwise. You know, the 165 pounder, he's like 6'5", tall, lanky, tough to hit. So I think he's actually going to have a pretty good performance here. He's up against Flaherty, and if you're like me, I was wondering, man, why is this line so short on the Guardians? I'm like, why aren't they like minus 150? Well, the reason is because of Detroit's starter here, Jack Flaherty. And his last time out, Dan, he went 6.2 innings and struck out 14 batters. I mean, you're only, getting 20 outs. And when you're striking out 14 of them, the market takes notice to that and gives him credit. And sure, he's due the credit. But sometimes in baseball betting, I like to kind of go against that. I mean, a guy that only gave up 2 hits and 14 strikeouts, but now he's going up against the Cleveland offense that is pretty good at, not striking out, pretty good bat-to-ball skills. I mean, they are 22-12 on the season, Dan. This is a pretty good team. They've won 2 straight games. And the Detroit Tigers just got swept, 3 straight against the Yankees. Overall, we get the better lineup. We get the better lineup against handedness of pitcher. They've hit righties a lot better and a better bullpen as well. So just laying, 16 cents is the low watermark on the WagerTalk live odds screen. I think it should be more, Dan. I really do. And that qualifies as a bet for me on the Cleveland Guardians tonight at home.
Yeah, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. And again, I know it's more anecdotal when you're talking about these past results for some of these pitchers, but for whatever reason, when McKenzie is on the bump, it seems like he's able to dial it up against the Tigers. Sure, maybe the win doesn't show you that, but a 105 ERA, 50 across 43 innings, 7 starts is what he has struck out. It's impressive numbers. So as I'm hearing you talking there, I'm almost wondering, and I'll welcome in Bryan because I want to get your thoughts on this Detroit and Cleveland game. Yeah, the price definitely seems short. So the full game looking towards Cleveland makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. But BP, I know you dabble in the first pitch or first fives just like Drew and I do. Almost sounds like Tristan McKenzie might be worth a look going with Cleveland here in the first 5. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've talked about on the show before, the Tigers bullpen has been outstanding this year, surprisingly outstanding. So if you think McKenzie is going to dominate, and you may probably want to leave the Tigers bullpen out of the equation, I don't hate a first 5 look in this matchup either.
Yeah, and we'll be talking some first 5s. As a matter of fact, we have a best bet coming up in that Texas and Oakland A's game in the first 5. That's coming from our man Drew Martin. But Bryan, the game that you wanted to eye is this Milwaukee and Kansas City Royals game. So we don't even have to satiate the chat as they always want to talk Brewers. We'll get it done right out of the gate here. Bryan Power, man of the people. The last time these teams faced off, 16 runs came across. You're thinking we might get a little bit more defense tonight. Why is that, BP?
Well, first off, biggest surprise teams, arguably, from each league. Really interesting matchup overall. A lot of interesting angles I want to break down. Note, first pitch for this game is getting bumped up half an hour. There's the expectation of thunderstorms in the Kansas City area. So if you want to bet this game, everybody, take note. It's now going to be a 7:10 Eastern start instead of 7:40. Now, earlier today on the morning wager with Mark Zinno, we talked about Cole Reagans and taking over 17 and a half recorded outs with him. I stand by that. Reagans, save for the one bad start against Baltimore, has been great. He's allowed just 7 runs in 35 innings pitched, his other 6 starts. No home runs allowed for Ragans. That's pretty exceptional. But why I would not go so far as to take the Royals to win this game or even the first 5 innings is they're not hitting well anymore, Dan. Just an 84 WRC plus over the last 2 weeks. And Milwaukee starter Bryce Wilson, I think he's going to pitch well here as well. He's allowed just 3 runs in 14 innings pitched so far, coming off his longest outing as well. And when this game gets to the bullpens, we just mentioned the bullpens in that Guardians-Tigers game, I give the Brewers the edge in the bullpens. The Brewers are a team that always manages the bullpens well, so that's another reason to shy away from KC full game, in my opinion. Now, the good news for the Royals is I don't see the Brewers doing a whole lot of damage at the plate here either. They were shut out Sunday, 96 WRC plus over the last 2 weeks. So you're talking about 2 offenses that have been operating below average over the last 2 weeks. Milwaukee also strikes out a lot against lefties, and guess what? Ragans is a southpaw. So slight edge to the home team early. I expect Ragans is going to go a full 6 and thus go over that outs prop of 17.5. But with Milwaukee having a decent start of their own, Dan, and the edge in the bullpen, I think the folks should consider betting under 8.5 here in a game featuring 2 struggling lineups.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you just think about what they've been doing at the plate, the only way that you could look in this game is under or pass it. When I was breaking down the card, what stood out to me, and you kind of touched upon it there, obviously, with Cole Ragans and what you're going to see with him, I was almost thinking go Milwaukee team total under, because I just think, and again, it's probably a square play because they're coming off of sweeps. You're probably not getting much value on that number. But Drew, any thoughts for you on that one? You ever dive much into the team totals? I know you sometimes look into the props and the breakdown you do with Drew's Daily Diamond. But for me, man, I don't see how Milwaukee starts putting balls in play here.
Yeah, I like where your head's at, Dan. And yeah, I do from time to time go after the prop market. I'll tell you this, though. At least I like to consider myself a little bit more of like an MLB money line grinder. It's just where you get the half off, the minus 105 you're paying instead of the minus 110. But yeah, no, I'll dabble for sure when I see some value or perceived value. And I say I like where your head's at because Ragans has been good, outside of that one start against Baltimore where they lit him up, and that Orioles lineup can get hot. So I don't like to diminish starting pitchers just off of like one outing. He also, one thing that I like about him is recently, Dan, his last 2 starts, he went back-to-back starts against the same lineup, the Blue Jays, which I think heavily favors the offense, especially a lineup like the Blue Jays that hit lefties well. And he went, just under 12 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, 13 strikeouts and 7 hits. He's hot right now, man. I think he's going to have a good start. So, his strikeout prop over, I think Milwaukee Brewers team total under, those type of bets, they're correlated in some sense. And yeah, I would want to be on like the Reagan side of being positive on that.
Man, as I hear us talking about that game, I feel like we could cook up a absolutely sick same game parlay in that one. So maybe I'll get in the lab here once these guys get into the best bets. See if we can work something up and get the chat to roll on that one. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. No, I like. Do they let you do that though? Like, can you do these little like K prop and then parlay them all in the same game? Because if they do, I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. I would think they would like avoid that in the same game, no?
So you would think that, because you hear so much talk about like correlated parlays, this and that. Over at DraftKings, at FanDuel, all these regulated sports books, they offer a tab itself. That's the SGP or SGB plus, whatever the heck you want to call it. And they allow you to pair these things together. Now, a lot of times the numbers might be a little bit different than what the actual market numbers are. So maybe you're paying a little bit more or, adding in, you have to do like 3 or 4 legs to actually make it a number that makes sense. But as far as the availability, like the days of going up to the counter and having to bet the dog and the under and having the guy look at you sideways and be like, yeah, we're not going to take that. They want you betting these parlays. That's why every single sportsbook commercial is get our same game parlays, get this, get that. Like that's what people want to bet. And the availability is there, man. So maybe that's what we'll all have to come. We'll start coming with a leg. We'll all pick a game and figure out a same game parlay that we'll get for the folks here on Monday editions of shows. But Bryan, you ever dabble much into those? I know it's not going to be like a client release, things like that. But as far as these same game parlays, I mean, it's not going away. Bryan, let's be honest about that. It's not going anywhere. You think of Prize Picks, all these different lineups. Just being able to pick players, pair them together. It's almost like fantasy sports, and you're placing bets on it. You ever dabble much into that stuff?
Yeah, and I mean we've kind of given the people one, right? I like Reagan's over outs under the total for the game, and then you brought up I think an excellent point with Milwaukee under its team total. There you go, right there. There's your same game parlay right there for the people. We're only 10 minutes into this program, and we've already cooked that up.
Look at that. It's what we do. I'm going to cook it up, and I'll get the price for folks. But right now, let's move on here to another game. We'll talk this early game quick. You know I have to. It goes at 4:05, so if you're watching on the rewatch and you passed it, it's just going to be a minute or two on Zach Wheeler on the bump. Drew, I mean, the guy, every time he goes out there, Phillies are trotting out. He's picking up a win. You have to lay a price with the Phils. So maybe the way to bet this one again, if you do like the Phillies, is you take Zach Wheeler to record the win. It's a way to get the juice down, and it's a way that makes sense if you think he's going a little deeper. Adam Trigger was actually on WagerTalk today saying he likes the other side of this one with the Giants. Where do you land on this afternoon slate game?
I like the Phillies here, Dan. And I was doing Drew's Daily Diamond at like 4 a.m., burning the midnight oil, and the Phillies were minus 187. Well, now they're as high as minus 250, my man. So like a 60-cent move in just 5-6 hours here. Look, Wheeler's been great. You know this. Last 3 starts, just 1 earned run. And it's nothing against Mason Black, to tell you the truth. You know, sometimes when these young kids making their MLB debut, by the way, it can kind of be a volatile handicap, just because, you know, there's not a whole lot of information out on him, and you got to factor in the nerve side of it. His numbers in the minors, not bad at all. He actually averaged a strikeout per inning, which is good through his progression up through the minor leagues. It's just going up against this Phillies lineup, Dan. They're hot right now. They've been great against righties. This team has won 16 of their last 19. The best record in baseball right now is the Philadelphia Phillies. That's probably surprising to some, just getting into the MLB betting markets. I'm not stepping in front of this Phillies team. I've been betting a lot of this kind of hot right now, this streak that they've put together. Bryce Harper, man, since he had a kid, he went on paternity leave. How many home runs has he hit? It seems like he hits a home run every single game, Dan. Yeah, it's Phillies or pass, man. And I think we need to be talking about, are the Phillies actually going to win the NL East? Are they going to make a run here? Is this really World Series contenders? I know you're starting to probably hear it there, being a Philadelphia fan, but I'm starting to believe, man, they got a shot.
Well, as you know, as a Philadelphia fan, it's either the best of times or the worst of times. Either they're getting the pennant, it's all good, or you need to sell the team, you need to shut down shop. There's no in between with the Philadelphia fans, that's for sure. Honestly, BP, for this one, and again, we'll move on just because I couldn't find a bet in this one. The price takes me off of it. I mean, Trig made sense saying take the 1.5 with San Francisco. I know you like looking at totals. We've seen some under money in this one. Any thoughts on the total or side in this game? If not, we'll keep on rolling here.
Yeah, well, first, just to echo what Drew just mentioned, and, you know, I've learned over my near 2 years here at WagerTalk, you always want to keep the show host happy. The Phillies are a very good team. Coming into the year, the consensus was they were the 3rd best team in the National League, and there was a gap between them and the Braves and Dodgers. Well, as Drew kind of alluded to with the record, you know, maybe that gap isn't as big as we thought. I mean, the Phillies have been great. Looking at this game, I had the over last night. I bet over 7.5. I was very happy for my clients that the Giants pushed that 4th run across the plate in the top of the 9th, because that game, it did close at 8. So that way everyone won. I was really happy to see that. Here's the issue with the Giants. They scored 4 runs last night. Do you know the last time they scored more than 4 runs in a game? It was April 23rd. And going against Wheeler, it's probably not going to happen here. So I don't know. That 4th run that got him plus 1.5. You had it last night, you won, but I don't know if I would come back with that. The Giants offense just is not doing much. And like Drew said, Bryce Harper's been hitting the cover off the ball. Homer last night, that was key for my over. So yeah, it would be Phillies or pass, but the price, I mean, what are you going to do with this price now? It's been bet up so much that there's sort of nothing I could do combined with the afternoon start. I don't know.
Well, if we couldn't interest you in a like minus 230 favorite, could we interest you in laying 310 or more with the LA Dodgers against the Fish here tonight? Drew, the chat is asking Titan CT. He wants to talk this Marlins game. Tyler, we're going to get to the Mets game, talk some Manea pitcher props, but Titan CT several times, Drew, has thrown in here. Marlins shock the world tonight. It's Buehler on the mound against Munoz. I mean, I don't see it, but if anyone can make a case here for the Fish, it's going to be you, right, Drew? Come on.
All right, Dan, you really want me to do this? Make the case for my Fish.
Want you to do
it. I'll tell you, Dan. Man, first off, when I see minus 300 favorites, I don't spend a whole lot of time digging deep into it. I just find it very difficult, particularly when they're at home. This kid Munoz, I don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, he's made 2 starts this season and been decent. Only 3 earned runs. Buehler, I don't expect him to go very long, which might be a case to maybe bet the Marlins because you'll get possibly some of the lesser arms in the Dodgers pen. I just don't see it, Dan. I'm not looking to bet on the Fish right now. I'm really not because, look, they're a bad lineup, Dan, a bad offense. Their numbers are terrible, and they just shipped away the 2-time batting champion, Luis Arraez, to the Padres. I mean, by the way, this is a Marlins fan, and I know I'm in the minority here just by listening to some sports talk radio down here in South Florida. I actually think, given their start to this season, that was a good trade for the Fish long term. They got a lot back. They got 2 top 10 prospects, another guy right outside of that. So when you're getting that much back, I think Jazz Chisholm's going to be traded here soon as well, which means as a sports bettor, I'm just not looking to bet the Fish right now. I'm really not, Dan. And with a minus 300 favorite at home, it just kind of becomes a quick cross out for me because speaking of the game we were just talking about, your Philadelphia Phillies and San Francisco Giants, I do not like, and if I could get one thing that I've learned betting baseball over the last decade as my straight job, really pump the brakes on laying the run line with the home team, guys. We saw it in that Giants-Phillies game last night. It was 5-3 going into the 9th. That bomb makes it 5-4. That defensive indifference, that last run scoring, it doesn't matter to the defense. Well, it matters to your bet. And I've heard 2 different odds makers, Sherapin being one of them, talking about it's one of the worst bets you can make out there is laying the run line with the home team long term, guys. It's not a great bet in baseball. So that's why I just kind of crossed it off. I don't like laying minus 300 with the home team Dodgers, and I don't like laying the run line kind of period in baseball, Dan.
Yeah, it makes a heck of a lot of sense, and it's something that we touch upon a lot here on First Pitch. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe and that little bell so we keep getting you this great content that you know and love. I mean, Bryan, if Marlins fans need something or Marlins backers need something, you have the new Jose Fernandez in Munoz. There's actually only 2 pitchers in Miami Marlins history with at least 13 strikeouts and a whip under .75 in their first 2 starts. This is a really big number here, really big sample size. So you got a future all-star right here in Munoz. So you can feel good. Buehler's the unknown. Munoz, he has 2 starts, and they were pretty good starts, right, Bryan? I'm trying to find something for him.
Yeah. Look, I want to leave Walker Buehler off the card entirely. He's just such an X factor. Here's an angle. Munoz against this Dodgers lineup, I think he's going to walk a lot of guys. The Dodgers are really good at drawing walks. I'm just scrolling through as you guys were talking at some props. I think Munoz walking at least 3 guys, which you can get plus money, might be the only thing I can come up with here. I just look at the Dodgers, their last several games. How many walks have they drawn? 3, 5, 5, 8, 6, 8. That's a lot of walks. And, Munoz, they're going to leave him in there for a little bit. So I think they can draw at least 3 walks against this kid. And that's really all I got here because, with an unknown commodity like Buehler, you want to take the other team, but as Drew intimated, Miami's just not giving you much. And I don't disagree at all with what Drew said that the trade wasn't a bad thing because there's nothing worse in baseball than being mediocre these days. I know people don't want to hear this, but Houston and then Baltimore have set the template, right? You just tear the thing down, you stack up a bunch of prospects, and you rebuild from scratch. Being mediocre in baseball is, in a word, dumb.
Yeah, well, Marlins, Titans, CT, I tried, man. Raven Ron says, alt line with the Dodgers, laying the 2.5 runs. says Raven Ron there in the chat. Get some plus money there. And Rich Filkins in the chat, like in the Phillies and Dodgers. The Dan once homer to his new town parlay of the day. Phillies and Dodgers minus 115 if you want to eat the chalk on both of those money lines. The guys have their best bets coming up. We're going to talk Texas and Oakland. First five, Drew has a bet in that one for you. And we got Padres and Cubs preview coming up. Before that, let's talk this Mets and St. Louis Cardinals game here. So we had some folks here in the chat asking thoughts on, obviously side and total, but Tyler specifically wanted to potentially find a bet on the lefty Sean Manaea, not in the typical way, to take his walks over. He says, I want to hammer Manaea, or hammer Manaea, excuse me. His walks, his homer numbers scare me a little bit. He does want to fade Kyle Gibson. So, Drew, what do you think about fading Gibson in this one? Manea's numbers enough to scare you off, or you like that plus money, much like our man Tyler?
I actually like, the plus money on the Metropolitans here, guys. I like this Mets team. I know they just got swept by Tampa Bay, but I don't want to downgrade them too much because some teams going to Tropicana, we've heard players talk about the lighting being off, so maybe they just weren't seeing the ball well. And I think that this New York Mets team is kind of like a little bit of a dark horse in the sense that they're there in the NL East. They're going to be behind the Phillies and the Mets. I actually think they could make some money catching a plus price here. Sean Manaea, 6 starts. He had 1 bad start. To the question, though, in specifics, his negatives are his walks. I mean, he has 18 walks already this season. I mean, we're in the first week of May, and he's got 18 free passes. This isn't Little League baseball, guys. You can't be giving free passes that much. So his numbers are okay. It's just that walk rate, watch out. So if you're going to bet an over on Manaea, I actually like where his head's at in terms of if he can't find the plate, that's likely going to cash. Although in his 3 road starts, he's been a lot better for whatever reason. Some guys just pitch better on the road. It looks like Manaea is that. I like the Mets here, Dan. I bet him at the plus price. He's up against the Cardinals. Yep. Gibson's been good. His last 3 starts, 19 innings, just 1 earned run in each, like a solid, outing. That's pretty much what we've gotten to know here with Gibson. St. Louis has lost 4 of their last 5. Lost the last 2 as heavy favorites against the White Sox. So they've really been burning cash. I think we get actually a bullpen advantage. I know they've had some hiccups here
Agreed.
Of late, but I still think the bullpen edge is towards the Metropolitans, and their lineup looks a lot better. I mean, both overall and against handedness of pitcher. St. Louis has really struggled against lefties, actually like one of the worst in MLB. So all of that, I'm listing Manaea, and I think the Mets at the plus price are worth a look here, guys.
Yeah, and as we're looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, we're looking at the consensus number in this one being even money on the Mets. I have that plus 105 in my pocket as well. It was one that stood out to me. Do we have consensus here on the dais thinking that the plus money is the side, Bryan? Because if we do, we know that doesn't really work out for us quite so often here. So please tell me you can make the devil's advocate point at least here for the Cards, right?
I'm actually going to make a dramatic right turn and just take in a different direction here. Last 9 games, this is how many times St. Louis Cardinals hitters have struck out. 11, 9, 7, 8, 15, 11, 7, 9, 10. If you're looking for a prop on Manaea, I'd go over 4.5 strikeouts, man. This St. Louis team has trouble making contact with the ball. I get that. I agree. The walks have been a concern recently, 4 in back-to-back outings. But I think he's going to register some Ks here as well against a scuffling Cardinals lineup.
I like it. I like the breakdown there. And Manaea, again, like you said there, pick him up and put him down potentially in that one simply because of all of the strikeouts that you've seen. We talked same game parlays earlier, guys. Manaea, the strikeouts thrown over the 4.5 and Mets money line. You can get a nice plus, 256 on that one. You interested? Hop below in the chat. If not, what are you guys cooking up there? I'm already seeing some folks talking some first fives, some bets that they're looking to fire in on that one. So definitely hop below in the comments. We want to hear the way that you're looking to bet these games here today. And if you disagree, all the more merry. We want to hear that in the comments below as well. Gentlemen, before we get back to some of these chat questions, let's talk some best bets here, because Drew, I don't know what odds I would have had to give you at the start of the season if we were going to say, as we're nearing the quarter mark, that the defending champions of the Texas Rangers side are going to be 2 games separated with the Oakland A's. I don't know what odds I would have had to get on that one, but surprising to say the least. And the A's in their last 10 have gotten 8 wins, 8-2 in their last 10. We talk about how hot the Phillies are. You can't be the afterthought of what the A's are doing. They're taking on the Rangers here tonight. You think the first 5 might be the way to look at this one. Why is that?
I do, Dan. Mainly it's because of Alex Wood, the A's starting pitcher. Now, the Athletics team I have circled as look to bet against. They've been one of the more surprising teams in all of baseball out the gate. You touched on it. I mean, winning 6 of their last 7. They're now just a game under 500 plus money on the season. And they have a really good bullpen. I mean, if you bring your bullpen numbers, doing bullpen ratings each day, and you make it the last 2-3 weeks, this is the number 1 bullpen in all of baseball. So they're coming in lights out. I'm wanting to stay away from that because I think that is pretty legit. That's the reason that they're winning a lot of these games, is because they're suppressing the runs for their opponents in the later innings. Andrew Heaney on the hill for Texas. He does have a 5.1 ERA. But his last time out was a great start. He went 7 innings, 0 walks. He actually has 0 walks his last 2 starts. So just 1 earned run in those 7 innings last time out. I think that he actually has a decent start here against this Oakland lineup that is about the same against lefties and righties. It's just Alex Wood for the A's, Dan. This is a guy that's been around now for 11, 12 years. He used to throw 93, 94. Now he's throwing 88, 89, 90 miles per hour, and he's getting hit. He's getting knocked around. I mean, year to date, he has 31 innings and 45 hits. That's almost a hit and a half per inning. That's not sustainable to stay in the show. So I'm going to cut out the bullpens here. I'm going to go first 5. Going to list Andrew Heaney as the starter, and I think the Texas offense does enough. I mean, they scored 18 runs the last 2 games, so they're starting to see the ball a little bit better here. They've won 2 straight, scoring those 18 runs. So I think Texas in the first 5, Dan, for the best bet.
Yeah, and Tyler pointing out that the Rangers haven't won a start with Heaney on the bump all this year. However, again, sometimes that has to do with what you're getting from the bats as well. I think isolating this in a first 5 wager, especially with Oakland flying high, makes a heck of a lot of sense to this better. Hop below in the comments and let us know how you're looking to bet this game. You think in full game, because we do have some people in the chat saying Rangers full game. I'm laying 1.5 with the Rangers. We talked about, that being a dicey proposition, a good proposition, whether you're looking at a road team, a home team. But Eric D saying, I'm not scared. Rangers laying the 1.5. Hop below in the comments and let us know if you agree or disagree. BP, let's get to your best bet here. Padres and Cubs. I think it's going to be Yu Darvish, indeed, this evening for the Padres as they're looking to start the second half of this little 6-game road trip. They might be licking their wounds a little bit. They sure got the series win against the D-backs, but the D-backs got the last laugh with that 11-4 win yesterday. I think the bounce back is coming here for the Padres as they continue the road trip.
I do, Dan. Now, I know the Cubs have been really good at Wrigley thus far. 12-4 record, 5.5 runs per game scored. And they're getting Justin Steele back on the mound tonight. Steele has not pitched since opening day, so pretty long layoff. I know at the big league level, I should clarify, and I know expectations are high for Steele's return, but this Padres lineup, Dan, with the rise, we talked about the trade earlier. This was already the 3rd best offense at WRC+, both overall and on the road. And on the road, the Padres put up 5.7 runs per game. That's number one in all of baseball. So, no Juan Soto anymore. Now, all of a sudden, it's not that big of a deal in San Diego. And I like this Padres team, quite frankly. They were incredibly, I cannot stress how ridiculous it was that they only finished 82-80 last season. Just horrific luck in extra innings and one-run games. They had the third best run differential in the NL, plus 104, trailing only the Braves and the Dodgers. To put that in perspective, the Arizona team that made the World Series was actually minus 15 in regular season run differential. So that was pretty crazy. I look at the NL West. I look at the Padres specifically. A lot of indicators toward positive regression this season. I was higher on this team than the market coming into 2024. I think a wild card is very could be in their future. Sunday, as you pointed out, that did not go well. But before that, not only did they win the series by taking the first two games against Arizona, but they won 4 in a row overall. And Darvish, he tossed 5 shutout innings his last time out. If he's anything like that again here, Padres are going to be in really good shape because I think they've got the edge in the bullpen. So San Diego, even money, minus 110. That is my best bet for the show here on Monday.
Looking at the Padres, best bet for my man, Bryan Power. He's also got a best bet up in NBA Locked and Loaded this evening. You can check him out, wt.buzz/BP. Over in the YouTube Shorts chat, they want a little preview of the NBA tip-off show you're going to be on with Joe Ranieri later. Avi is in the chat saying he likes the over in the Knicks game. So I know we're here on the baseball show, but what the chat wants, the chat gets. Brian, I know you're going to be touching on that game at length, but you think there might be points in that Knicks game? I mean, I think Pacers team total may be worth a look for me simply because of the fact that they've proven they can score against this Knicks team. But if that's what I like, why not go over with Avi? Any thoughts in that one before we get back here to the Diamond?
Well, look, we talk about it a lot in college basketball, a pace war, because there's obviously so many teams in college basketball. Teams play at drastically different paces. It's not as pronounced in the NBA, except for this series, Dan, because the Pacers play at the second fastest tempo in the league. The Knicks play at the slowest tempo in the league. Generally, it's my belief it's easier to slow a team down than it is to speed them up. This morning, I did talk about the series a little bit on the Morning Wager with Mark Zinno. I think it's going to be Knicks in 5. You can get that at plus 310 at DraftKings. I think that's a good bet. I think the Knicks are the definitively better team. I don't have a read on the total. I'm actually hoping the game goes over and then we can come back in game 2 and bet the under at a higher number, Dan, because the way this is priced, it's obviously a low total from the Indiana perspective, but it's a high total from the Knicks perspective. So I don't like the total. I think just coming into the series, I think the Knicks are definitively the better team defensively, rebounding. The fact that the Pacers are deeper doesn't matter because Tibbs plays his starters a ton anyway. So I don't know. I lean towards the Knicks for the series, but again, we will talk more in depth about that on the NBA show. Joe Ranieri and I at 4:15 Eastern.
Yeah, and that's more reasons than ever to make sure you hit that little bell and you're subscribed here at WagerTalk TV. Throw that like while you're watching and you're hopping below in the comments as well. Eric D in the chat trying to talk him into the triple P parlay. The Phillies, the Padres, and the Pacers. So hey, if you're interested in some plus, if I can interest you in a plus 700 money line parlay, the triple P's of the apocalypse is what our man Eric is eyeing in that one. Drew, let the folks know what you have locked and loaded. Like we said, BP has a 4% play up over at WagerTalk.com. What do you got rocking here today for the folks tuning in live with us on the YouTube channel?
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, I got a 4% Monday sizzle, 7-1 on Mondays, putting that on the line right now. And 4% plays 4-1, 80% MLB. So got it up, locked, loaded here, guys. 4%er, WagerTalk.com. Drew Martin play I'd really like tonight, Dan. So, yeah, man, locked and loaded on the diamond.
The man's is sizzling. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. And both of these guys, you can grab the play that they have locked and loaded today. Sure, that's your prerogative. You want to do that. Or Why not get 11 days of all access for the price of 7? That's right. Pay for a week, get 11 days of plays. You can check that out at wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/deals. Huge shout out to the chat Wisconsin guy, Rue Zen. Speaking on Drew's best bet earlier, he said A's will get F's sooner or later, but as long as they've been plus money, I'm riding that donkey to the promised land. But he's passing today. But Drew did tell you in that one, first 5 for Texas against Oakland. That was the best bet for Drew Martin. Best bet for Brian Power. He's going with Los Padres taking on the Cubs. You just went money line in that one. We appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching on the rewatch, hop below in the comments. Let us know what your best bets are today. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that little bell. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back locked and loaded. Another live show getting you some winners for Tuesday. Until then, best of luck. And if you want more, you don't have to go far. You can stay right here. Check out that video on your screen. Keep getting all the info you need to cash on all the sports you love. That's what we do here at Wager Talk TV. We'll see you next time.